I've been using the Canon RP for almost a whole year now. So the question is, how does this camera hold up for my needs as a videographer long term? Let's go ahead and take a look. Hi there friends, thanks for dropping by my channel. Here we focus on self-improvement, productivity, and we try to create better versions of ourselves. And every now and then we throw in a tech review just, for the whateverness of it. About 5 months ago, I made a video about the RP and reviewing it and going over some of my first impressions with it. And it was an honest review, but there was just a few things that you tend to not notice until you use it for a longer, more extended period of time. And I feel like I didn't express some of those well. So after using it for a little bit longer, I feel like I need to give a little bit more weight to certain things and a little less weight to others. So think of this video as more of a bonus or like an add-on to the previous video. And if you haven't seen that one, it would probably give you a little bit more of a good idea of like the overarchingness of the camera. This is gonna get more specific to my needs and how it fits and doesn't fit those needs. So if you haven't checked that video out yet, I'll put a card right up here or a link down in the description if I forget, which wouldn't be the first time. So let's go ahead and look at some of the drawbacks and the benefits of this camera. And keep in mind, I pretty much only use this for video. So that's mostly what we're gonna be talking about here. If you wanna hear a little bit of a photographer's perspective on this, you can check out my other video that I was talking about. I kind of go into the photography side of things just a little bit more. Now remember, this camera is not built to be a Cadillac. So it's not surprising that there's some features that are missing or not there. Sadly, whenever you want something for cheaper or less money, you have to sacrifice some of these things. So first we're going to look at some of the negatives and the drawbacks to this, and then we're going to shift over to the positives. So let's look at some of these drawbacks. The main one that I have to work around a lot is the 4K is almost unusable. Canon loves to advertise this feature of 4K in their camera, which is totally awesome and understandable. But there's some pretty serious limitations that make this legitimately hard to use. I shoot pretty much everything in 4K, so I experience frustration constantly. The big one is focus, and if I understand correctly, it has, in 4K it only has contrast detection focus, which means that it's very, very slow. It's so slow that I pretty much never use it. If I want to shoot in 4K, I pretty much have to always go into manual focus mode because I simply can't trust the camera to keep up with me and or like the facial tracking to keep up with my face. Like it'll randomly lock on other things that it thinks is my face. The other reason that it's very difficult to use in 4K is because the crop is very significant. This thing sports a solid 1.6 crop in 4K. So yeah, vlogging is pretty much out of the question. To give you some reference, let me show you a clip from my previous video kind of demonstrating the difference between the two. So you have normal 4K, which is this right now, and then if you switch back to full frame 1080p, you can see how dramatic of a difference that is. I mean, one is extremely wide and open, the other one is very cropped in. The only way you could vlog in 4K is if you had it set on manual focus and a crazy wide lens. But since I'm using this for mostly interviews, like in this scenario, I can just set it down, put the focus on manual and lock it, and I'm pretty much good to go. But it does make working with other projects and shooting B-roll and other stuff like that fairly difficult. And also the crop in this scenario doesn't really bother me. I can just move the camera farther back. Something else to get used to is the file size in 4K. I'm pretty sure the compression isn't extra large for the RP. It is slightly more than like the R6, for example. It's usually just under 1 gig every minute. So it's pretty substantial. If you are switching, plan ahead and think what you're gonna have to upgrade and take into account some of the other aspects that go along with this. For example, space is a huge one because I filled up our computer like that. I mean, it was so fast because I'm shooting 2 videos a week and that amounts to around 100 gigs every week. Yeah, so you do that for a year, starts to add up really, really quickly, and then you have to buy more storage, and then you have to upgrade your computer if your computer can't handle 4K. So 4K is not completely unusable, but you have to be locked in a location like this where you can manually set the focus and then just leave it and make sure there's plenty of room that you can back the camera up for the crop. Next one is battery life. Now I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time here. You can do research on this on your own, but the battery life isn't great. In 1080p it'll last a fair amount of time. If I was vlogging, I could go most of the day on one battery. Sitting like this and doing an interview in 4K does take quite a bit more. I can only get about 45 minutes to an hour generally out of that. So just something else to keep in mind. I would highly recommend that you have multiple batteries. Now, depending on what your uses are, after hearing that 4K was a little bit tedious to use, you're probably asking like, well, hey, isn't it worth it to have full frame 1080p in such a small camera body? And that's kind of a loaded question because I don't really know what you're using this for. So I can't really answer it yes or no, unfortunately. But for me personally, 1080p just absolutely did not cut it. For one thing, the dynamic range in this camera is not great. It's very mediocre. And so you have a little bit more of a front lit section here and a little bit of a darker background with a good amount of color and things like that. And with 1080p, you lose all of this detail in the background. It just looks muddy and very noisy and hazy. So for me, something like that, absolutely not. I have to be in 4K for that. Now, when I do travel vlogs or things like that, and the focus is mainly on documentation and just capturing everything and not so much on the production value, then yeah, full frame 1080p is awesome. It's great to have a full frame on such a thin body. You get even more real estate. But if you see the comparison between 1080 and 4K on this camera, there's a pretty dramatic difference. One thing I will say about the 1080p is that the focus is really, really quick. The retinal tracking is very, very on point. That's one thing that I was very impressed with this camera. In other versions of Canon cameras, whenever you would get like kind of the budget model, usually focusing was something that you would lose. You would lose the quickness of it. You would lose the speed and the tracking and the facial recognition. Not with this camera. You definitely keep all of that. It's very fast. I read somewhere that the delay time is like 0.05 seconds. So it's very, very quick. Now, I'm sure every other review video that you've seen has probably covered at least one or two of these different things. But seriously, I just wanted to reinforce this, that these three things really caused me a lot of frustration. And when you can't trust your camera to do certain things and you have to manually do them, it's just really, really annoying. And like I said, I'm not blaming Canon for this at all. They crammed a lot of stuff, a lot of good things inside of this camera for a very minuscule price. Every camera has some sort of drawback. You cannot escape it. So the question isn't so much, what's perfect about this camera? It's more like, what is annoying about this camera that I'm willing to put up with? It's like the tangled AirPods analogy, where basically whenever you buy something brand new, you're basically just buying a new set of problems that are slightly less than your old set of problems, which is good. We want that. The difference between the benefits and the disadvantages in something like this is, with the disadvantages, after almost a year, you're still gonna notice these things. They're still gonna be annoying and they're still gonna be there. And the benefits just kind of fade into the background. They kind of just become baked into your baseline. The 4K crop is just as annoying this video as it was 10 videos ago and 20 videos ago. And the 4K quality, like how good it is, it's super good. That's just kind of average now. After the first video, it's like, wow, this is amazing. After the 5th video, it's like, woo, this is kind of cool. After like the 25th video, you're just like, cool. And that's the reason why we focus so much on the negatives here, because these are things that you're still gonna find frustrating after months and months of using this. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at the benefits, because it would be kind of unfair to just kind of skip over top of them, and that'd be a depressing video. Before we look at those benefits though, I do want to take a quick second to say thank you for stopping and clicking on this video. It's pretty awesome that you're here, and it means a lot to have you guys supporting me on this channel, whether that's through a like or a comment or a subscription. Whatever it is, it goes a really long ways in helping me along my goal of becoming a full-time YouTuber. So let's look at some of the benefits here, and hopefully these aren't the benefits that everyone's talking about. I was trying to kind of go out of the mainstream to get things that are a little bit more specific to this camera. So one thing is overheating, and Canon talks about this, where they're saying like, if you're shooting in 4K with the RP, you should probably watch that it doesn't overheat or get too warm. And I've never experienced that. It's never gotten to the point where it shut off. It's never even gotten like uncomfortably warm. Anytime you can keep your camera from spontaneously bursting into flames, it's a good time. And it's just nice not to have to worry about it while recording, and it's just one more thing that you don't have to think about or plan around. This camera is very user-friendly, and this is actually something that surprised me quite a bit when I first started using this camera, is that every knob and button and arrow, usually for the most part, has their own purpose. It makes it really nice because things are consistent even when you're in different settings. And this is something that I actually didn't like very much about the R6 when I first started using it, was a lot of the controls and the knobs would overlap. Depending on like if you're in photo or video, or depending on what setting you're in. So it's not a big deal. It's just something that can make that the process of using it slightly less enjoyable. All right, I'm gonna combine the next couple into one, just because they're pretty common and I'm sure you've heard them all before. The first one is R lenses. They're very expensive, and yeah, I didn't really enjoy having to upgrade lenses along with the camera. I wish I could have still used the old ones. But these lenses are amazing. Like, I was blown away when I got these lenses. They are incredibly clear, crystal clear. They're very smooth. You can adjust like lighting and stuff on the lens as you go. It's pretty sweet. You can program them. They're really, really awesome. Very quick when it comes to focusing. Yeah, they're expensive, but you will not regret buying them. The camera is also very compact, and I'm sure you've heard this before. It's very, very small, very low profile. You can fit it almost anywhere. Having a compact camera is really, really nice, and I would be completely remiss if I did not mention it. And obviously the price is the next one, which is what everyone's talking about, and rightly so. This is one of the only cameras that I've come across that's full frame for such a cheap price. It's very reasonable. But like I said earlier, when you sacrifice price, you also sacrifice other features of the camera that can make it more annoying to work with. Basically what I'm doing is painting you as scales and putting the good on one side and the bad on the other. And just depending on what you're using this camera for, the scales is going to tip different directions for you. The caution I would give you is to be careful not to buy this camera on a whim or on a feeling just because it's exciting and new. Try to look at it as a tool that you're going to be using day in and day out, and really ask yourself if you're willing to put up with the drawbacks. There's only a few really major ones, and I tried to highlight those and what they were for me. And so really think about that, like how annoying it would be to work with that, work around those. Now there's a good chance that while you're watching this, you thought of someone else that might possibly be interested in this topic. If that's the case, I would highly encourage you to send them this video. If they don't want to watch it or they're not interested, that's totally fine. That's on them, it's not on you. But it's worse yet if they never have the option to hear. So with that being said, as always, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next video.